The Colorado wilderness stretched endlessly beyond the chain-link fence of Camp Ridgeline, a private security training facility nestled in the mountains 30 miles outside Denver. Late September had painted the aspens gold and crimson, but inside the compound, beauty took a back seat to brutality. This was a military basic training. This was where corporations sent their executive protection teams, where law enforcement agencies refined their tactical units, and where civilians with money could pretend to be operators for 2 weeks. The morning air bit cold at 6,000 feet elevation, sharp enough to see your breath even in mid-afternoon. 43 recruits stood in formation on the gravel parade ground, their boots crunching in unison during morning drills. Among them, almost invisible in her deliberate plainness, stood Maya Reeves. She was 34, though she could pass for younger. Average height at 5'7", lean build, dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun. Nothing about her screamed special, and that was exactly how she wanted it. Her application listed her previous employment as private security consultant, which was technically true if you considered classified operations in Yemen, Syria, and the Horn of Africa as consulting work. Maya had arrived at Camp Ridgeline 3 days earlier with a simple goal: disappear into the crowd, complete the certification her new civilian employer required, and get back to her quiet life in Seattle. After 12 years with Naval Special Warfare Development Group, the unit most people incorrectly called SEAL Team 6, she'd earned her silence. The Navy had given her an honorable discharge 8 months ago after a helicopter crash in the Hindu Kush left her with a titanium rod in her left femur and enough psychological scars to fill a case file. The transition to civilian life had been harder than any mission. The grocery store overwhelmed her with its fluorescent normalcy. She'd catch herself scanning rooftops during morning coffee runs. Fireworks on the 4th of July sent her diving behind her couch, heart jackhammering, hands reaching for weapons that weren't there anymore. Her therapist at the VA suggested civilian interaction in structured environments. Her new employer, a Seattle-based maritime security firm, required this 2-week tactical certification course. So here she was, pretending to learn things she'd mastered a decade ago, surrounded by wannabes and weekend warriors. "Reeves, you sleeping standing up?" The voice belonged to Derek Tanner, one of the senior instructors. He was ex-Army Ranger, legitimately skilled, but possessed the emotional intelligence of a cinder block. "Give me 20. Maya dropped without hesitation, knocking out 20 perfect push-ups in the gravel. She'd learned long ago that gray man tactics required complete compliance. Don't excel dramatically. Don't fail noticeably. Float in the middle where nobody looks twice. Pathetic, Tanner muttered, though her form had been flawless. He moved down the line, finding easier targets. The real problem wasn't the instructors. It was the recruits. Specifically, a group of 4 who'd appointed themselves a camp's social hierarchy. They called themselves a crew, which Maya found adorably juvenile. Their ringleader was Kyle Brennan, a 26-year-old from Orange County, whose father owned a chain of luxury car dealerships. Kyle had washboard abs, a catalog model jawline, and the supreme confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences. His lieutenant was Marcus Shaw, a Chicago police officer on paid leave following an incident involving excessive force. Marcus stood 6'4", carried 240 pounds of muscle, and wore his aggression like cologne. Too much of it, overpowering everything around him. The other 2 were Chase Hendricks, an Iraq War veteran who'd served 4 years as a logistics clerk, but told everyone he'd been in the shit, and Tyler Combs, a construction worker from Houston, who thought joining this camp made him tactical. They'd been targeting Maya since day 1, though their harassment started subtle, accidentally bumping into her in the chow line, making jokes about female recruits needing extra help, commenting loudly about how some people didn't belong in tactical training. Maya ignored it all. She'd operated in combat zones where enemy fighters wanted her dead. She'd extracted hostages under fire. She'd breached terrorist compounds in the middle of the night. For insecure men, playing dress-up didn't register on her threat assessment scale. But their frustration at her indifference was escalating. "I don't get it," Kyle said during afternoon downtime, loud enough for Maya to hear from her bunk. The barracks were gender segregated, but the common area wasn't. What's her deal? She doesn't talk, doesn't smile, doesn't react to anything. Ice Queen, Marcus agreed, his Chicago accent thick. Probably thinks she's better than everyone. Maybe she just knows she doesn't belong here, Chase added. This isn't a place for secretaries playing soldier. Maya, cleaning her borrowed training rifle across the room, didn't look up. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, breaking down the AR-15 variant, inspecting each component, reassembling it in under 30 seconds. She could do it blindfolded, had done it blindfolded, underwater, in sandstorms, and under fire. Seriously, has anyone heard her voice? Tyler asked. Like, at all? She talks to instructors when she has to, Kyle said, but never to us. It's disrespectful. This was the pattern with men like Kyle. They interpreted a woman's disinterest as disrespect, her silence as challenge. Maya had seen it 1,000 times. From special warfare combatant craft crewmen who resented having a woman in their unit, from host nation forces who couldn't believe a female operator could outshoot them, from contractors who assumed she was someone's girlfriend instead of a team member. She'd proven herself over and over in rooms where bullets flew and decisions meant life or death. She wasn't about to waste energy on a trust fund kid at a civilian training camp. That evening, during the obstacle course run, the crew made their move. The course wound through dense pine forests, incorporating rope climbs, wall scaling, a creek crossing, and a final sprint up a steep incline. Recruits ran in pairs, timed by instructors at checkpoints. Maya had been paired with a quiet accountant from Minnesota named Tom Hendricks, no relation to Chase. Tom was in his 40s, earnest, physically struggling but determined. Maya deliberately paced herself to his speed, offering quiet encouragement when he faltered on a rope climb. I can't do this, Tom gasped, hanging halfway up the 30-foot rope, his arms shaking. Yes, you can, Maya said below him, her voice calm and steady. Lock your feet. Use your legs, not your arms. Rest your grip for 3 seconds, then move. It was the most she'd said to anyone besides instructors since arriving. Tom followed her advice, made it to the top, and they completed the course together, not fast, but finished. As they emerged from the forest trail, Maya noticed Kyle, Marcus, Chase, and Tyler clustered near the tree line, watching. Something in their body language triggered her threat assessment protocols. The way they huddled together, the glances they exchanged, the predatory patience in their posture. She filed it away and headed to the showers. The women's shower facility was converted outbuilding behind the main barracks. 6 individual stalls, decent water pressure, the luxury of privacy. Maya took her time, letting the hot water ease muscles still adjusting to the titanium in her leg. The physical therapy had been extensive, but she'd never quite regained the same flexibility in that hip. Small prices for surviving a helicopter crash that killed 3 of her teammates. She dressed in clean PT gear, grabbed her toiletry bag, and stepped into the twilight. The mountain air had gone from crisp to cold, and stars were emerging in the darkening sky. Maya could smell pine sap and the distant smoke from the mess hall's fire pit. The path back to the barracks wound through a small grove of aspen trees, their golden leaves rustling in the evening breeze. Motion sensors triggered solar lights along the walkway, creating pools of illumination in the gathering dark. Maya was halfway through the grove when they stepped out from the shadows. All 4 of them, blocking the path ahead and behind. Kyle in front, Marcus and Chase flanking, Tyler blocking the rear exit. Their positioning was tactical, amateur tactical, but deliberate. They'd planned this. Evening, Reeves, Kyle said, his smile not reaching his eyes. We wanted to have a little chat. Maya stopped walking. Her expression didn't change, but every nerve ending in her body went active. She assessed. For targets, all male, all larger than her. Kyle was armed with something in his jacket pocket, rectangular shape, maybe 4 inches long. Marcus carried his weight forward, aggressive stance, likely to charge. Chase and Tyler were less confident. Followers, not leaders, would react to the others' cues. I'm headed to barracks, Maya said, her voice neutral. Excuse me. She moved to walk around Kyle, but Marcus stepped into her path. See, that's the problem, Kyle continued, pulling his hands from his pockets, but keeping them visible, a gesture meant to appear non-threatening. You don't engage. You don't socialize. You act like you're above everyone here. I'm not interested in socializing, Maya replied, her tone flat. Now move. Or what? Marcus growled, stepping closer. You gonna cry to the instructors? Tell them the big bad men were mean to you. Maya's breathing remained steady. Her weight shifted imperceptibly to the balls of her feet. She mapped the terrain, gravel path, aspen roots creating trip hazards. Nearest hard cover a tree trunk 8 feet to her left. Nearest weapon a 6-inch branch on the ground 3 feet to her right. We just want to see if you're really as tough as you pretend, Kyle said, and his hand went into his jacket pocket, pulling out the rectangular object Maya had identified. A taser, civilian model, probably 50,000 volts, effective range 15 feet with projectile probes, direct contact range unlimited with proper application. Whoa, Kyle, Chase said, uncertainty creeping into his voice. I thought we were just going to scare her a little. Relax, Kyle said, never taking his eyes off Maya. It's just a joke. Right, Reeves? You can take a joke, can't you? Maya's eyes fixed on the taser, and something inside her went very cold and very still. It was the same mental space she'd occupied in the seconds before breach, the clarity that came when violence became inevitable. Put that away, she said quietly. Or what? Kyle laughed. Come on, everyone. Let's see the Ice Queen show some emotion. He moved forward. Taser extended, not quite threatening, but definitely intimidating. Marcus chuckled. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Chase watched with the expression of someone who'd realized they'd stepped in something they couldn't scrape off. Maya didn't move, didn't flinch. Just watched Kyle approach with that predatory calculation he mistook for fear. Maybe a little shock will warm you up, Kyle said, grinning now, feeding off Marcus's laughter and the power dynamic of 4 men surrounding one woman in a darkening forest. He pressed a button. The taser made its characteristic crackling sound, blue arc dancing between the prongs. 50,000 volts, enough to override the body's nervous system, cause involuntary muscle contractions, drop most people screaming. Kyle pressed it against Maya's shoulder, and for one long, crackling moment, electricity coursed through her body. Then Maya Reeves smiled. Not a friendly smile, not even an angry smile. The smile of someone who'd endured worse pain than these boys could imagine, who'd been shot, stabbed, burned, and broken in classified locations around the world, who'd suffered through underwater demolition training, Hell Week, and advanced combat courses that would make these weekend warriors weep. The smile of someone they'd just made a catastrophic mistake in underestimating. My turn, Maya said softly, and everything changed. The taser fell from Kyle Brennan's hand before his brain fully processed what was happening. One moment he'd been holding it pressed against Maya's shoulder, watching electricity dance across her frame, waiting for her to drop and scream. The next moment his wrist had been twisted in a direction wrists weren't meant to go, pain exploding up his arm, and the taser was clattering onto the gravel path. Maya had moved with speed that didn't seem possible, fluid, precise, no wasted motion. Kyle's training instructor brain tried to catalog what she'd done. Some kind of joint lock, pressure point manipulation, but executed so smoothly it looked choreographed. Jesus Christ. Marcus Shaw barked, stepping forward aggressively. At 6'4" and 240, he'd spent his life using his size to intimidate. He grabbed for Maya's shoulder, intending to shove her back, establish dominance. She wasn't there. Maya had pivoted inside his reach, and suddenly Marcus found his own momentum working against him. A palm strike to his solar plexus, perfectly placed, just enough force, folded him forward. Before he could recover, she'd hooked his leading ankle and guided him face first into the dirt with what looked like minimal effort. The entire exchange took maybe 3 seconds. What the fuck? Chase Hendricks stammered, backing up. Tyler Combs had gone pale, his earlier bravado evaporating. Kyle cradled his wrist, eyes wide. You crazy, bitch. Language, Maya said calmly, her stance loose but balanced. In the solar path lighting, her expression remained neutral, almost bored. You gentlemen wanted to see if I was tough. Now you know. We done here. Marcus pushed himself up on the ground, dirt on his face, ego shattered. His hand moved to his belt where Maya noticed a professional detachment. He carried a folding knife, against camp regulations, but not surprising for someone with his temperament. "Marcus, don't," she said, and something in her tone made him freeze. Not fear, certainty. The absolute confidence of someone who'd faced knife attacks in Mogadishu back alleys and Syrian safe houses, who'd trained with the best close-quarters combat instructors in the world. "You put your hands on me," Marcus growled, his Chicago accent thickening with anger. "That's assault." "You tossed her, you fucking idiot," Chase hissed, "with witnesses, while blocking her path. That's assault and battery and false imprisonment." The legal reality was dawning on them now, the adrenaline fading enough for consequences to register. Kyle looked at the taser on the ground like it might incriminate him, which it absolutely would. "This was just a joke," Kyle said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We were just messing around." "You assaulted me with a weapon," Maya stated flatly. 4-on-1, isolated location, showed clear intent. "Any one of you want to explain that to camp administration? To local law enforcement?" Silence. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath, aspen leaves frozen in the evening air. Tyler found his voice first. "We fucked up. We're sorry. Please don't report this." "Please." Maya's eyebrow raised fractionally. 30 seconds ago you were laughing. Now you're begging. Interesting progression. "Look," Chase tried, hands raised placatingly. "We got carried away. Kyle gets he's competitive, and we shouldn't have." "Shouldn't have what?" "Assaulted a fellow recruit? Brought a taser to a training facility? Conspired to harm someone for your entertainment." Maya's voice remained level, but each word landed like a judge's gavel. "Be specific about what you're apologizing for." Marcus had climbed to his feet, brushing dirt from his tactical pants. His hand still hovered near his knife, but something in Maya's posture, the way she positioned herself with clear sight lines to all four men, maintaining optimal reaction distance, made him reconsider. "Who the hell are you?" he asked quietly. It was the right question, finally. Kyle and Tyler were still processing their shift from aggressors to defendants, but Marcus's cop instincts were clicking. The way she'd moved wasn't fitness-class self-defense. Those were combatives honed by thousands of repetitions, muscle memory carved by life-or-death scenarios. "Someone you shouldn't have fucked with," Maya said simply. "But you didn't know that. So here's what happens next." She took a single step forward, and all four men involuntarily stepped back. The power dynamic had completely inverted. "You're going to pick up that taser, Kyle. You're going to dispose of it off property tonight. You're going to avoid me for the remainder of this course. All four of you. You don't talk to me. You don't look at me. You don't think about me. Understood? And if we don't," Marcus challenged, though his heart wasn't in it, "then I report this. I have extensive documentation training. I can recall every detail, timeline, exact positions, who said what, the serial number on that taser. I also have a lawyer on retainer who specializes in assault cases and loves making examples out of men who target women. Want to test that?" The bluff was partial. She did have a lawyer from her Navy days, but her delivery sold it completely. These men had spent their lives bluffing, intimidating, using size and aggression to get their way. They recognized someone who wasn't bluffing. Kyle picked up the taser with his good hand, his face flushed with humiliation. "This isn't over," he muttered. "Yes," Maya corrected. "It is, because if it's not, if any of you try anything else, I won't defend myself with restraint. I'll defend myself with intent. And trust me, you don't want to see what that looks like." She walked past them then, threading between Kyle and Chase, her shoulder deliberately brushing Kyle's, a power move, establishing dominance. They parted for her like the Red Sea, and she continued up the path toward the barracks without looking back. Behind her, she heard Tyler whisper, "Dude, what just happened?" "We just got our asses handed to us by someone who actually knows what the fuck she's doing," Chase replied, his voice carrying a mixture of respect and fear. Maya allowed herself the smallest smile once she was out of sight. The encounter had been unfortunate, but not surprising. Toxic masculinity in training environments was as predictable as sunrise. At least she'd handled it without seriously injuring anyone, which spoke to her restraint. Her therapist would have a field day with this at their next session. Back in the female barracks, Maya found her bunk and sat down heavily. The adrenaline was fading now, leaving a familiar tremor in her hands that always followed confrontations. Not fear, just chemistry, her body processing the combat hormones. "You okay?" The voice belonged to Jennifer Park, a 32-year-old FBI agent from the Los Angeles field office. She occupied the bunk across from Maya and had been one of the few people to treat her normally, which meant mostly leaving her alone. "Fine," Maya said automatically. "Bullshit." Jennifer set down her book, a thriller novel Maya had noticed was tactically absurd but apparently entertaining. "You've got that look." Something happened. Maya considered deflecting, then reconsidered. Jennifer was law enforcement, observant and direct. Useful qualities. "Four of the guys tried to intimidate me. Used a taser. I handled it." Jennifer sat up straight. "They tossed you?" "Maya, that's assault with a deadly weapon. You need to report." "It's handled," Maya interrupted. "They understand there won't be a repeat performance." "How handled?" Jennifer's cop instincts were firing now. "Did you hurt them?" "Hurt their egos more than anything. One sore wrist, one bruised solar plexus, for damaged psyches. Nothing that needs medical attention." Jennifer studied her with new appreciation. "You know, I've been watching you this whole week. The way you move, how you handle weapons, your situational awareness. You're not like the other recruits. You're not learning this stuff. You're remembering it." Maya said nothing, which was answer enough. "Military?" Jennifer pressed. "Has to be, but not regular military. Rangers maybe? MPs?" "Consultant," Maya said, repeating her cover. "Private security." "Right. And I'm just an FBI secretary who wandered into tactical training by accident." Jennifer smiled without humor. "Look, I'm not trying to dig into your business, but if those assholes come at you again, you've got a federal agent as a witness. I've got your back." Something in Maya's chest loosened slightly. Camaraderie had been one of the hardest losses after leaving teams. The knowledge that people around you were trained, competent, and would step into fire alongside you. "Appreciated," Maya said simply. "Those guys, Kyle's crew, they've been problems since day one." Jennifer continued. "I filed a formal complaint with the camp director yesterday about their harassment of female recruits. Between you and me, there are 3 women who've already dropped out because of them. The camp knows it's a liability issue, but they're dragging their feet because Kyle's daddy donated money for the new pistol range." "Typical," Maya muttered. "Tomorrow's the first live fire exercise," Jennifer said. "Lots of noise, chaos, easy for accidents to happen. Watch yourself out there." It was good advice. Maya had seen training accidents that weren't accidents, rounds that went astray with suspicious precision, negligent discharges that somehow targeted specific people. The military investigated such incidents thoroughly, but civilian training had less oversight. "I'll be careful," Maya promised. That night, sleep came in fragments. Maya's dreams were a collage of old missions and new anxieties. Helicopter rotors and aspen trees, gunfire and taser crackles, teammates' faces and Kyle's predatory smile. She woke at 0400, heart racing, and didn't bother trying to sleep again. Instead, she dressed in PT gear and went for a run. The mountain darkness was absolute beyond the facility lights, but Maya knew the perimeter trail by memory now. 5 miles in 40 minutes, pushing her rebuilt leg, making it remember what it used to do. She finished as dawn broke over the mountains, painting the peaks orange and pink. The cold air burned clean in her lungs. This was the best time, before the camp woke, before she had to maintain her gray man facade, when she could just be Maya Reeves, operator, without hiding or explaining. At breakfast, the crew sat at their usual table, noticeably subdued. Kyle's wrist was wrapped in an ace bandage. Marcus picked at his food, without his usual aggressive appetite. Chase and Tyler looked like they'd slept poorly. None of them looked in Maya's direction. Derek Tanner, the lead instructor, made announcements. "Today we begin live-fire tactical scenarios. You'll be divided into squads of 8, running building clearance drills with simunition. Paintball-style marking rounds that hurt like hell but won't kill you. I expect professionalism and safety protocol adherence. Anyone showboating or being reckless gets sent home immediately. Clear. Clear, sir, the recruits chorused. Tanner read out squad assignments. Maya found herself in Squad 3, along with Jennifer Park, the accountant Tom Hendricks, and 5 others she barely knew, including Marcus Shaw. Of course. Marcus's eyes met hers across the mess hall, and she saw his calculation. Trapped in a squad together, live ammunition, even simunition. Close quarters, lot of opportunity for payback. He smiled slowly, and Maya understood instantly that last night's lesson hadn't taken. Some people needed to be taught twice. Jennifer noticed the same thing. This is going to be interesting, she murmured. Define interesting, Maya replied, loading bacon onto her tray. The kind that might require incident reports. Keep your head on a swivel. The Live Fire facility was a purpose-built structure on the far side of camp, a 2-story building designed to mimic urban combat environments. Inside, it had multiple rooms, doorways, staircases, and furniture obstacles. The simunition rounds fired from modified real firearms, marking targets with paint while delivering enough kinetic impact to bruise badly. Tanner demonstrated proper techniques. Pi-G corners, fatal funnel awareness, communication protocols, the difference between cover and concealment. Maya had done this hundreds of times with her team, clearing terrorist compounds in Ramadi, hostage rescue in Somalia, high-value target captures in Syria. She knew things about close-quarters battle that Tanner had probably never encountered, but she kept her face neutral, nodded at appropriate times, and didn't volunteer information. Squad 3 geared up. Helmets, eye protection, modified M4 carbines loaded with simunition. Marcus positioned himself as team leader, not officially, but through sheer aggressive assertion. He organized everyone into a stack for building entry. Reeves, you're last, he announced. Rear security. It was a tactical insult. Rear security was important, but typically assigned to less experienced shooters. Marcus was relegating her to the back, where she'd see minimal action, get minimal credit. The others in the squad didn't argue. Most were too nervous about the live fire scenario to care about team politics. Jennifer caught Maya's eye, raised an eyebrow questioningly. Maya gave the smallest head shake. Not worth fighting about. They stacked up outside the building entrance. Tanner and 2 other instructors monitored from an observation tower, radio headsets on, air horns ready to stop the exercise if anyone violated safety protocols. On my mark, Marcus said, hand on the door. 3, 2, 1, execute. He breached the door and Squad 3 flowed inside, weapons up, shouting commands. The first room was clear. Second room had target dummies. Marcus, first through the door, fired 3-round center mass on the primary threat. Good shooting, actually, but his tactics were sloppy. He didn't pie the corner properly, exposing himself to potential flanking positions. He verbally communicated, but didn't use hand signals to the member behind him. His muzzle discipline was adequate, but not excellent. They cleared the first floor, then headed upstairs. The stairwell was a fatal funnel. Any competent enemy would saturate it with fire. Marcus charged up anyway, trusting aggression over technique. The second floor opened into a hallway with 4 doors. Marcus started assigning rooms. Henderson, Peterson, you take left. Cooper or Jeffries, right side. Park, you with me on. Paint exploded across his chest. A role-player instructor had emerged from one of the rooms, firing simunition. Marcus hadn't properly cleared the angles, and he'd been killed in the scenario. The paint marked him bright orange, and he was technically out. Fuck! Marcus shouted, more angry than embarrassed. The instructor, playing enemy combatant, disappeared back into room and slammed the door. Now Squad 3 had a barricaded hostile with unknown capabilities. Jennifer took charge immediately. Reeves, you're up front now. Henderson, Cooper, stack left. Everyone else, cover the other doors in case we got more tangos. Maya moved forward smoothly, taking point position she should have had from the start. The barricaded door was solid wood, open inward, standard interior door, easy to breach but dangerous if the enemy was positioned well inside. She held up 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. On 0, Henderson kicked the door. Good force, solid follow-through. The door crashed inward. Maya was already moving, crossing the threshold low and fast, weapon tracking. The room was dressed like an office, desk, filing cabinets, computer. The role-player instructor was positioned behind the desk. Simunition rifle up. He fired twice. Both rounds would have hit center mass on anyone entering at normal height or speed. They sailed over Maya's head because she'd entered in a combat crouch, a technique most civilian trainers didn't teach because it was physically demanding and required excellent leg strength. Her simunition rounds caught the instructor's rifle hand and shoulder, disabling shots, tactically perfect. Target neutralized, she called, and Squad 3 flooded into the room behind her, securing it properly. From the observation tower, she heard Tanner's voice over the loudspeaker. Excellent entry, Reeves. Textbook form. Marcus, standing in the hallway with orange paint on his chest, looked like he'd swallowed glass. The exercise continued for another hour, rotating through different scenarios. Maya deliberately stayed middle of the pack in subsequent rooms, letting others take point, not showcasing her full capabilities. But that first entry had been seen by everyone. The speed, the precision, the absolute competence. Word spread during the lunch break. Recruits who thought Maya was just another wannabe started asking questions. Where had she trained? What was her background? How the hell had she moved like that? Maya deflected every inquiry with professional vagueness and minimal eye contact. But Kyle Brennan, sitting with his bandaged wrists and bruised ego, was watching her with new eyes. Not attraction, calculation. He was reassessing everything he'd assumed, every interaction they'd had. She's military, he said to his remaining crew at their table. Has to be. Question is what branch, what unit? Does it matter? Tyler asked nervously. Dude, we already learned our lesson. Let's just avoid her like she said and finish this course. It matters, Kyle insisted, because I don't like being played. She's been sandbagging this whole time, pretending to be some quiet nobody while she's actually what? Special Forces? Women aren't in Special Forces, Chase said, though he sounded uncertain. Marcus, still marked with paint, stared across the mess hall at Maya. They are now, have been for a few years. Rangers, SEALs, all opened up, but the ones who make it through those pipelines. He trailed off, doing mental calculations. Those are the most badass women on the planet. Built different. You think she's a SEAL? Kyle laughed, but it sounded hollow. Come on. I think, Marcus said slowly, that we toss someone who's probably been shot at in actual combat. Someone who knows 100 ways to kill people with her bare hands. And I think we're lucky she didn't break anything more than your wrist. Silence settled over their table, heavy and uncomfortable. Across the mess hall, Maya finished her lunch, collected her tray, and walked out without acknowledging their stares. Jennifer Park fell into step beside her. You made quite an impression today, Jennifer observed. That entry was something else. Where'd you learn to move like that? Practice, Maya said simply. Uh-huh. Must have been some practice facility. They teach you that in private security consultant school. Despite herself, Maya almost smiled. Something like that. Well, whatever your background, you've got Marcus and Kyle spiraling. They spent the whole lunch break trying to figure out who you are. Jennifer paused, then added carefully, For what it's worth, you're a secret safe with me. Everyone's entitled to privacy about their service. It was the closest Jennifer had come to directly acknowledging what she'd figured out. Maya appreciated the discretion. Thanks, Maya said and meant it. That afternoon brought defensive tactics training, hand-to-hand combat scenarios, weapon retention drills, ground fighting basics. Derek Tanner paired people off for sparring, deliberately mixing skill levels so experienced fighters could help novices learn. Maya ended up paired with Kyle Brennan. The afternoon sun slanted to the open-air pavilion where defensive tactics training took place, casting long shadows across the blue practice mats. 40 recruits stood in 2 lines, facing each other, preparing for sparring drills. The mountain air had warmed to a pleasant 60 degrees, but tension among the group ran cold as Colorado snowmelt. Derek Tanner walked between the lines, explaining the rules. This is controlled sparring. 70% intensity maximum. We're learning technique, not trying to prove who's toughest. You tap out, your partner stops immediately. You say stop, everything stops. Anyone who doesn't respect the tap gets expelled from camp. Crystal clear? Yes, sir, the recruits responded. Good. Now, I've paired you deliberately. Experience with inexperience, big with small, testing different body dynamics. First drill, weapon retention. Attacker tries to take your training knife. Defender prevents it using proper technique. Rotate every 3 minutes. Maya stood across from Kyle Brennan, and the air between them carried static electricity. Kyle's wrist was still wrapped, though he removed the bandage for training. His face showed careful neutrality, but his eyes held something between fear and calculation. Around them, other pairs began their drills, grunting, struggling, the thud of bodies hitting mats. Tanner circulated, correcting grips, demonstrating holds, his voice carrying across the pavilion. Ready? Maya asked Kyle, her tone professionally empty. Yeah, Kyle said, and there was something different in his voice. Last night's arrogance had been replaced by wary respect. Look, about last night. We're training now, Maya interrupted. Focus on that. She drew the rubber training knife from her belt, held it in standard grip. Kyle was supposed to attempt disarming her using the techniques Tanner had demonstrated. But when he moved, his approach was hesitant, telegraphed, easy to counter. Maya redirected his grab, maintained knife retention, and reset to starting position. Again, commit to it this time. Kyle tried again, putting more effort into the attempt. This time his technique was better. Proper angle of attack, using his body weight. Maya had actually worked to retain the weapon, employing a wrist lock that made Kyle wince. Good, she said, and meant it. You got the mechanics. Do it faster next time. They rotated through the drill several more times. Kyle improved incrementally, and Maya caught herself actually teaching, adjusting his grip, suggesting footwork modifications, the way she instructed new team members during her years as a senior operator. Tanner noticed, stopped to watch. Reeves, good coaching. Brennan, you're listening. Keep that up. When the timer buzzed and partners rotated, Maya found herself across from Marcus Shaw. He'd been watching her work with Kyle, and his expression was complicated. Ego warring with pragmatism, anger tempered by reluctant respect. Guess it's my turn to get schooled, Marcus said. Only if you're willing to learn, Maya replied evenly. The drill shifted to ground defense. Attacker mounts. Defender escapes using proper technique. Marcus was supposed to mount first while Maya demonstrated escape. At his size, he could easily pin her, make the drill nearly impossible if he wanted to be vindictive. But when Marcus settled into mount position, controlling her hips with his weight, he didn't grind down maliciously. He maintained pressure, enough to be realistic but not cruel, and when Maya executed her escape sequence, bridging and shrimping to create space, Marcus gave appropriate resistance without being impossible. You know jiu-jitsu, Marcus observed after she'd escaped and reversed position. Maya acknowledged, now in top control, demonstrating the next sequence. More than some, that bridge and roll was clean. Where'd you train? Different places over the years. They continued the drill, and something shifted between them. Not friendship. That was too much to expect. But a warrior's recognition of another warrior. Marcus had been a cop in rough neighborhoods. He understood violence intimately, and he was beginning to understand that Maya existed in that same world, maybe deeper into it than he'd ever gone. Last night, Marcus said when they reset, I had my hand on my knife, was thinking about using it. Maya looked at him directly. I know. You would have taken it away from me, wouldn't you? Not just blocked it, actually disarmed me and probably broken something in the process. Probably, Maya agreed, but I'm glad we didn't find out. Yeah. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of. Got put on leave because I beat the shit out of a guy resisting arrest. Kept hitting him after he was down. Judge called it excessive force, Put me on administrative leave pending investigation. Why are you telling me this? Maya asked, because I saw the same thing in your eyes last night. That switch that flips. The place you go when violence becomes the answer. I've got it from years on the South Side dealing with gang shootings and dead kids and feeling helpless. But you... He studied her carefully. You got it from somewhere else. Somewhere worse than Chicago streets. Maya said nothing, which was confirmation enough. I'm not going to ask what you did or where you did it, Marcus continued, but I am going to apologize for being a dick. You didn't deserve that taser shit, and I should have stopped Kyle before it happened. But you didn't, Maya pointed out. No, I didn't, because I'm an asshole who goes along with things to feel like part of crew, even when I know better. That's something I'm working on. He paused. My therapist says I have trouble with authority and women in particular because of my mother issues. Despite everything, Maya felt a flicker of sympathy. Trauma was trauma, whether it came from combat zones or childhood homes. Therapy's hard work, she said. Good that you're doing it. Yeah, well, mandatory when you're on leave and trying to keep your pension. Marcus offered a grim smile. But I figure if I'm going to be a better cop, a better person, I should start by not tossing women who could probably kick my ass without breaking a sweat. The timer buzzed again. Partners rotated. This time Maya ended up with Tom Hendricks, the earnest accountant from Minnesota. Tom was nervous about the ground fighting drills. He was soft around the middle, inexperienced, clearly uncomfortable with the physical contact. I'm not very good at this, Tom admitted as they knelt on the mat. That's why it's called training, Maya said gently. Go ahead and try to pass my guard. Use your weight, not your strength. Tom attempted the technique Tanner had demonstrated, but his approach was timid, apologetic. Maya coached him through it, encouraging small improvements, praising what he did right. By the third repetition, Tom was actually succeeding, and his face lit up with surprised pride. I did it, he said, grinning. You did? Maya confirmed. Now do it again and make it smoother. Jennifer Park, sparring nearby with Chase Hendricks, caught Maya's eye and smiled. This was different from the cold competence Maya had shown during live-fire drills. This was patience, mentorship, the side of operator life that civilians rarely saw. Behind the kicking doors and shooting bad guys, there was teaching, camaraderie, lifting up the people around you. Derek Tanner called time on the partner drills and brought everyone to the center of the mats. Good work today. I saw Real learning happening, and I saw some of you discovering that training partners aren't enemies. They're the people who make you better. Now, we got 30 minutes left, and I want to do something different. He gestured to Maya. Reeves, front and center. Every head turned. Maya felt a familiar anxiety spike. Attention was the opposite of gray man tactics, the opposite of what she wanted. But Tanner was an instructor, and you didn't refuse direct commands in training environments. She stood and walked to the center of the mat. I watched you today, Tanner said, his tone respectful but curious. Your techniques aren't just good, they're exceptional. Your spacing, timing, technique execution, that's not weekend warrior stuff. So here's what I want to do, if you're willing. I want you to demonstrate advanced defensive tactics for the group. Show them what high-level skill looks like. You game! Every instinct screamed at Maya to decline, to deflect, to stay invisible. But another part, the instructor part, the part that remembered teaching new team members, recognized an opportunity. These people needed to see what excellence looked like, not to be intimidated, but to be inspired. What specifically do you want demonstrated? Maya asked, let's start with weapon retention against a larger, stronger attacker. I'll play the bad guy trying to take your sidearm. You show them how it's done properly. Tanner handed her a rubber training pistol, which she secured in a training holster on her belt. They squared up. Tanner was 6'2", probably 220, significantly larger than Maya. The size and strength differential was obvious. Exactly the kind of scenario female operators face constantly, where technique had to overcome physical disadvantage. Ready? Tanner asked. Maya nodded. Tanner moved fast, grabbing for pistol with both hands, using his weight to pin her against his body. A realistic attack from someone trying to disarm a smaller officer or soldier. It was the kind of assault that ended badly if you didn't know what you were doing. Maya's response was instantaneous and precise. She secured the pistol with her right hand while her left shot upward, driving her thumb into the pressure point just behind Tanner's jaw. His head snapped back reflexively. She used that split second of distraction to spin inside his grip, breaking his hold on the weapon while driving her elbow into his solar plexus, control force, enough to demonstrate effectiveness without actually hurting him. In less than 3 seconds, she retained the weapon and put Tanner in a position where, in real life, she could have drawn and shot him before he recovered. The watching recruits erupted in applause and impressed murmurs. Tanner, grinning despite having his technique dismantled, stepped back. That was textbook perfect. Reeves, where the hell did you learn a move like that? Maya's mind raced through acceptable answers. The truth, Naval Special Warfare Development Group. 12 years conducting classified operations, training with the best close-quarters battle instructors on the planet, was an option. But these people deserve some honesty. Military, she said simply. Long time ago. Different life. What branch? Someone called out. Navy, Maya answered, keeping it vague. Did some specialized training. That's all I can really say about it. Tanner studied her with new appreciation, pieces clicking into place. He was ex-Army Ranger, which meant he understood operational security and didn't press for details. Well, whatever specialized training you did, it was damn good. Can you show us a few more techniques? I think everyone here could benefit from seeing this level of execution. Maya hesitated, then nodded. If she was going to be exposed anyway, she might as well make it useful. For the next 20 minutes, she demonstrated advanced techniques. Disarms, holds, counters to common attacks. She worked with different partners to show how techniques adapted to size and strength differentials. When she worked with Kyle, she corrected his form without condescension. When she worked with Marcus, she praised what he did well while suggesting refinements. When she worked with Tom, she encouraged him through techniques he thought were beyond his capability. And slowly, the dynamic in the pavilion transformed. What had started as a demonstration became a teaching session, with recruits asking questions, trying techniques themselves, helping each other improve. Even Kyle and Marcus, who'd been antagonists hours earlier, were coaching Tom and Tyler through proper footwork. Jennifer Park, watching from the sidelines, smiled broadly. This was leadership, not the authoritarian, ego-driven kind that Marcus and Kyle had tried to impose, but the authentic kind that inspired people to be better versions of themselves. Derek Tanner finally called time as the sun touched the mountain peaks, painting everything orange and gold. Outstanding work today, everyone. Reeves, thank you for that demonstration. Everyone, thank you for the attitude and effort. Dismissed. Chow in 30 minutes. As the group dispersed, heading for showers and barracks, Kyle Brennan approached Maya. She tensed automatically, but his body language wasn't aggressive. It was something closer to respectful. That was impressive, Kyle said. The teaching, I mean, not just the technique, though that was seriously high level, but how you explain things so everyone could understand. You're good at this. Thanks, Maya said cautiously. Look, I've been a complete asshole since you arrived. Last night was... He struggled for words. Indefensible. I got caught up in stupid machismo bullshit. Wanted to seem tough in front of the guys, and I targeted you because I'm insecure about women who are more competent than me. He said it quickly, like he'd rehearsed it. My therapist says I have narcissistic tendencies rooted in seeking my father's approval by dominating others, especially women, and I'm trying to work on that. Maya blinked. Did everyone here start therapy recently? Kyle laughed, surprised. I've been in therapy for 3 years. Anger management after I got arrested for fighting in college. My dad made a condition of paying my legal fees. He paused. But I think I'm actually learning some shit now, instead of just going through the motions. Today helped. Seeing what real competence looks like versus my fake bravado bullshit. Good, Maya said simply. Keep learning. Marcus joined them, Chase and Tyler trailing behind like uncertain satellites. We wanted to say something. Marcus started, as a group, about last night and just everything. The four men stood there, and Maya saw something unexpected, genuine remorse. These weren't evil people, just damaged ones, acting out their traumas and insecurities in destructive ways. She'd known plenty of operators with similar issues, guys who came back from deployment angry and lost, picking fights, pushing boundaries, hurting people who didn't deserve it. The difference was whether you recognized it and worked on it, or let it define you. We fucked up, Chase said bluntly. Not just with you, but with other people here. We've been acting like this course is a frat house, making it hostile for anyone who doesn't fit our vibe. That's not okay. It's really not okay, Tyler added. I've got a sister who's trying to join the police academy, and if guys treated her the way we treated you, I'd want to beat their asses. But I was one of those guys. I'm ashamed of that. Maya looked at each of them, really looked, the way she'd assess potential assets in the field, determining who could be trusted and who was just telling you what you wanted to hear. What she saw was complicated. Ego and genuine remorse, shame and defensive pride, the messy reality of people trying to be better while still being fundamentally themselves. Apologies are good, Maya said finally, but actions matter more. You want to make amends? Stop targeting women in this course. Stop the aggressive posturing. Help create an environment where everyone can train without dealing with your bullshit. Do that and we're square. Deal, Marcus said immediately. Kyle and the others nodded agreement. And Kyle, Maya added, get that wrist looked at by the camp medic. Joint locks can cause damage that doesn't show up immediately. Ice it tonight, compression wrap. Keep it elevated. Kyle looked startled that she was giving him medical advice after everything, but he nodded. Thanks. I will. They dispersed toward the showers, and Maya found herself alone on the pavilion mat. The sun had dipped below the peaks now, twilight descending fast the way it did in mountains. She stood there for a moment, processing the day's emotional whiplash, from confrontation to demonstration to reconciliation. That was unexpectedly wholesome. Jennifer Park's voice came from pavilion entrance. She'd been waiting, watching. You could have humiliated those guys in front of everyone. Instead, you taught them. Why? Maya considered the question. Because humiliation doesn't teach. It just creates resentment. They were already humiliated by getting their asses handed to them by someone they'd underestimated. Adding to that wouldn't have helped anyone. Very zen, very mature. Jennifer smiled. Also, completely at odds with what I would have done. I would have thrown every one of them under the bus to camp administration, pressed charges, made sure they got expelled. That would be the legally correct approach, Maya acknowledged, but not your approach. Why not? Maya thought about the teams, about the brotherhood and sisterhood forged in impossible circumstances, about the guys who'd made mistakes and been given chances to correct them, about the culture of accountability that demanded excellence while allowing for human failure. Because people fuck up, she said simply. And sometimes they need the opportunity to be better, not just the consequences for being worse. Those four, they're not evil. They're just lost and angry and acting out. If this course can help them find something better, some purpose, some discipline, some self-awareness, then that's worth more than punishment. Jennifer studied her thoughtfully. You sound like you've led people before, not just taught them techniques, but actually led them through difficult things. Maybe, Maya allowed. Navy Special Warfare, Jennifer said quietly. That's what you were, wasn't it? That's why you move like violence is a second language. Why you teach like you've done it 1,000 times. Why you gave those guys grace instead of consequences. You've been in actual combat, led teams in life or death situations, and this? She gestured at the training facility. This is just paint by numbers compared to what you've done. Maya didn't confirm or deny, just held Jennifer's gaze steadily. Your secret's safe, Jennifer said. I'm just saying, it's a hell of a background to walk away from. Must have been hard. Transitioning is always hard, Maya said. Combat to civilian, military to regular life. You lose the structure, the purpose, the people who understood what you did and why it mattered. But you do it anyway because staying isn't healthy anymore. She was saying more than she'd intended, letting the words spill out in the twilight quiet. Jennifer just listened the way good investigators did, letting silence create space for truth. I got hurt, Maya continued. Physically, psychologically. Kept deploying because I didn't know who I was without the job. Finally got hurt bad enough that I didn't have a choice, medical discharge, disability rating, the whole exit process. Thought it would destroy me, losing that identity. But maybe... She trailed off. Maybe it saved you? Jennifer suggested gently. Maybe, Maya agreed. They stood there in comfortable silence as darkness completed its mountain transformation, stars emerging in impossible quantities overhead. The camp's dinner bell rang in the distance, a literal bell, because Derek Tanner was old school about everything. Come on, Jennifer said. Let's get food before the good stuff's gone. And maybe after dinner, you can tell me more about the specialized training you definitely didn't do with naval special warfare. Maya almost smiled. Maybe. Dinner was chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, green beans, comfort food executed adequately by the camp's kitchen staff. Maya loaded her tray and scanned for seating. The dynamics had shifted noticeably since this morning. Where before the crew had dominated their corner with aggressive energy, now they sat more quietly, eating and occasionally conversing with nearby tables. Tom Hendricks waved Maya over to his table, where he sat with several other middle-aged recruits who'd been struggling through the physical portions of training. Save you a seat, Tom said enthusiastically. We were just talking about this afternoon's demonstration. That was incredible. Maya sat uncomfortable with the attention, but committed now. Just basic defensive tactics. Everyone can learn that stuff with practice. Basic. Tom laughed. Maya, you disabled Tanner in like 3 seconds. 3 seconds. I've been trying to learn that weapon retention move all evening, and I still can't make it work on my bunkmate. It's about mechanics, not strength, Maya explained, falling into instructor mode despite herself. You're trying to muscle through it instead of using leverage. Tomorrow during free training time, I can show you the pressure points if you want. Really? That would be amazing. Tom's face lit up like she'd offered him a gift. And that was how Maya Reeves, who'd come to this camp specifically to avoid attention and coast through unnoticed, somehow became the unofficial mentor for half the struggling recruits. Word spread during dinner that she was offering extra coaching, and by the time dessert arrived, apple pie, decent, she had 6 people asking for her help with various techniques. Jennifer watched this development with poorly concealed amusement. You're terrible at laying low, she whispered. This is like the opposite of maintaining a low profile. I know, Maya muttered, but I can't just watch people struggle with things I can help with. It's not in your nature, because you're a teacher as much as an operator. Jennifer's smile was knowing, something like that. After dinner, Maya found herself in the common area with a semicircle of recruits, demonstrating proper stance and grip for pistol shooting. Then someone asked about room-clearing techniques, and she found herself walking to the theory of fatal funnels and angles of domination. Then someone else wanted to know about stress management during high-pressure scenarios. It was 9 p.m. before she finally extracted herself, claiming exhaustion. Jennifer walked with her back to the women's barracks, the mountain night cold and crystalline around them. You know what you're doing, right? Jennifer asked. Teaching basic tactics to civilians? Maya replied. Building a following, demonstrating leadership, showing everyone here what actual competence looks like, which makes certain people. She tilted her head toward the men's barracks where Kyle's crew resided. Either respect you or resent you more. I'm just helping people who ask for help. Right. And Julius sees it was just crossing a river. Intent doesn't change outcome. Jennifer's tone was serious now. Maya, I like you, and I'm worried that by elevating yourself from anonymous recruit to camp expert, you've painted a target on your back for anyone with ego issues or authority problems. Can handle myself, Maya said. I know you can, but should you have to? There are 10 more days of this course. That's a long time for resentments to fester, for someone to decide they need to knock you down to feel better about themselves. It was valid concern. Maya had seen unit dynamics implode over less. Competent operators getting hazed by insecure teammates, politics undermining tactical effectiveness, ego destroying cohesion. But she'd also seen the opposite. Strong leaders elevating everyone around them, creating cultures of excellence, making teams greater than the sum of their parts. "I'll be careful," Maya promised. "But I'm not going to stop helping people just because it might threaten someone's fragile masculinity." Jennifer laughed. "Fair enough. Just watch your six, okay? I've got a feeling the next week is going to be interesting." She had no idea how right she was. The temperature dropped 15 degrees overnight, autumn asserting its authority over the Colorado mountains. Maya woke at 0430 to frost on the barracks windows, her breath visible in the unheated sleeping quarters. She dressed quietly in the dark. Thermal underlayer, tactical pants, moisture-wicking shirt, boots that had carried her through a dozen countries and countless missions. The leg ached more in cold weather, the titanium rod conducting chill into her rebuilt femur. She worked through stretches methodically, convincing damaged tissue to remember its purpose. Physical therapy had given her back 90% function, enough to run, climb, fight. The missing 10% manifested as stiffness, occasional sharp pain, and the knowledge that she'd never again match her pre-injury capabilities. Small prices for surviving a crash that killed 3 teammates. She pushed the thought away. Compartmentalization, another skill honed over years of operational necessity, and headed out for her morning run. The pre-dawn darkness was absolute beyond facility lights, but Maya knew the perimeter trail by memory now. 5 miles, 42 minutes today, the cold air burning clean in her lungs. She finished as orange light touched the mountain peaks and found Derek Tanner waiting near the training pavilion, 2 cups of coffee steaming in his hands. He offered one to Maya without comment. "Didn't know you were an early riser," Maya said, accepting the cup. "Ranger habit," Tanner replied. "Never quite shook it, so you heading out and figured you might want company on the back end." They stood in companionable silence, watching the sun transform the landscape from monochrome to technicolor. Tanner was one of the few instructors Maya genuinely respected. Tactically sound, ego-free, focused on actually teaching rather than performing authority. "Want to talk about yesterday?" Tanner asked finally. "What about it?" "About the fact that you've been sandbagging since you arrived, and yesterday you let everyone see what you're actually capable of. About the fact that I'm ex-75th Ranger Regiment, and I recognized at least 3 techniques yesterday that came straight from JSOC Advanced Combat courses." He sipped his coffee. "About the fact that you're not a private security consultant any more than I'm a ballerina." Maya said nothing, just watched the sunrise and waited. "Naval Special Warfare Development Group." Tanner continued quietly. "Had to be. The shooting, the combatives, the way you teach. That's not regular Navy. That's not even regular SEAL. That's development group operator-level skill." "Can't confirm or deny," Maya said automatically. "Don't need you to. Just want you to know I understand why you were trying to stay invisible. But that cat's out of the bag now, and I'm concerned about the next week and a half. We've got some advanced training coming up, combat trauma medicine, urban reconnaissance, a 72-hour field exercise, stuff that's physically and psychologically demanding." He paused. "I need to know if you're here because you want to be, or because you're running from something." Maya considered the question, really considered it, not just reflexively deflecting. Was she running? From the teams, from her injury, from the memories of missions gone right and missions gone catastrophically wrong? "Both," she admitted. "New employer requires this certification. But also, I thought 2 weeks pretending to learn things I already knew might be easier than figuring out who I am without the job that defined me for 12 years. And is it easier?" Maya laughed without humor. "Not even a little bit. Turns out you can't outrun yourself, and playing pretend doesn't solve identity crises." "Yeah," Tanner agreed. "Transition's a bitch. Took me 3 years after I got out before I stopped feeling like a ghost in civilian clothes. But you figure out eventually. Find new purposes, new ways to be useful. Is that what this is for you? Teaching tactical courses to civilians and wannabes. Some of them are wannabes," Tanner acknowledged, "but some are good people trying to learn real skills for legitimate purposes. Security professionals, law enforcement, protective details. They deserve quality instruction." And I get to stay connected to this world without staying in it. He looked at Maya directly. You could do the same, you know? Your teaching yesterday was exceptional. Natural gift for breaking down complex movements into understandable components. That's rare. Maybe, Maya said noncommittally. Think about it. We're always looking for qualified instructors, especially women with legitimate special operations backgrounds. Representation matters. Having female instructors shows the women recruits that they belong here. He finished his coffee. But that's a conversation for later. Right now, I need to warn you about today. Maya's attention sharpened. What about today? We're doing scenario-based training. Hostage rescue simulations, active shooter responses, high-stress decision-making under time constraints. Some of the scenarios involve role players acting as hostile civilians, ambiguous threats, chaos, and confusion. Tanner's expression was serious. For someone with your background, actual combat experience, probable PTSD from real-world ops, this kind of training can trigger unexpected reactions. Flashbacks, dissociation, panic responses. I'll be fine, Maya said automatically. Maybe, but I've seen combat veterans completely lose it during scenario training because something, a sound, a smell, a visual cue, transported them back to actual trauma. And in a training environment with live participants and simulated weapons, that can get dangerous fast. It was valid concern. Maya's therapist had warned her about similar triggers, unexpected stimuli that could activate trauma responses, sending her nervous system into fight or flight mode before her conscious mind could intervene. I appreciate the heads up, Maya said. I'll monitor myself. If I feel unstable, I'll sit out. Good. And Maya, if you do get triggered, that's not weakness. That's a normal human response to abnormal experiences. There's no shame in it. Thanks, she said, meaning it. Breakfast was oatmeal and eggs, fuel for the demanding day ahead. The dining hall buzzed with nervous energy. Everyone had heard about today's scenario training, the culmination of everything they'd learned. Passed the day, and you'd proven you could function under realistic pressure. Fail, and you went home with an incomplete certification. Kyle Brennan's crew sat at their usual table. But the dynamic had shifted noticeably. Marcus was reviewing scenario protocols from the previous night's study materials. Chase and Tyler were discussing proper communication under stress. And Kyle was watching Maya again, but his expression had changed from calculating hostility to something closer to professional respect. When Maya caught his eye, he nodded, not friendly, not apologetic, just acknowledgement. She returned the nod and went back to her breakfast. Jennifer Parks slid into the seat beside her. Big day. You nervous? Should I be? I am, Jennifer admitted. FBI trains us for active shooter scenarios and hostage situations, but this is different. Civilians in the mix, ambiguous threats, split-second decisions. Easy to shoot the wrong person or hesitate at the wrong moment. You'll do fine, Maya assured her. You've got good instincts and solid tactical foundation. Trust your training. Easy for you to say. You've probably done this for real, haven't you? Actual hostage rescues, actual life or death calls. Maya didn't answer, which was answer enough. Right, Jennifer said. So for you, this is just Tuesday. For the rest of us, it's the most intense thing we'll probably ever experience. They assembled at the scenario training compound at 0900, a purpose-built facility designed to mimic urban environments. Multiple buildings, vehicles, civilians played by camp staff and hired role players. The whole setup designed to create maximum realism and stress. Derek Tanner stood on a platform overlooking the compound, explaining the day's structure. You'll run through 3 scenarios in squads of 8. Each scenario will be graded on tactical proficiency, decision-making, communication, and safety protocol adherence. The scenarios are deliberately designed to be challenging and ambiguous. There are no perfect solutions. We're evaluating how you handle uncertainty under pressure. He outlined the scenarios. Scenario 1, active shooter in a shopping mall. Locate and neutralize the threat while evacuating civilians and managing multiple wounded. Scenario 2, hostage situation in a bank. Negotiate first, breach and rescue if negotiation fails. Minimize casualties. Scenario 3, vehicle interdiction, and high-value target extraction. Stop a convoy, extract a specific person, handle armed security without knowing who's actually hostile. Each scenario will have unexpected complications, Tanner continued. Hidden threats, non-combatant interference, equipment failures. We want to see how you adapt in real time. Questions. A hand went up. Tom Hendricks, the accountant from Minnesota. Are we allowed to talk strategy beforehand, or do we go in cold? You get 5 minutes of planning time per scenario. Use it wisely. Maya's squad for today was different from yesterday's. The camp administrators had deliberately shuffled teams to force people to work with unfamiliar partners. Her team included Jennifer Park, Marcus Shaw, Tom Hendricks, and 4 others she barely knew. Rodriguez from Phoenix PD, Chun from a private military contractor, Williams, who was ex-Air Force Security Forces, and Jackson, who ran executive protection for tech CEOs. They were designated Squad 2, which meant they'd run Scenario second, after watching Squad 1's attempts. That could be advantageous, learning from others' mistakes, or disadvantageous, watching others succeed and feeling pressure to match or exceed their performance. Squad 1 entered the first scenario, active shooter in the mock shopping mall. Maya and her squad watched from the observation platform as Squad 1 navigated chaos. Screaming role players, gunfire sound from speakers, smoke effects creating confusion. They performed adequately, locating the shooter in 6 minutes, neutralizing him without shooting any civilians, evacuating successfully. But Maya noted tactical errors. Poor communication, failure to properly clear corners, one member freezing when confronted with an ambiguous threat, role player who might have been armed. Tanner's assessment was professional but critical, passing grade but sloppy execution. Better communication would have cut response time in half. Then it was Squad 2's turn. They geared up, helmets, eye protection, simunition-loaded carbines, radios. Maya checked her equipment automatically, muscle memory from thousands of mission prep sequences. Everything was functional but unfamiliar. Rental gear, not the custom-fitted equipment she'd used downrange. Marcus appointed himself team leader again, not through discussion, just through assertion. Maya let it go. Leadership didn't require a title. It emerged through action when situations demanded it. They had 5 minutes to plan. Marcus laid out a basic strategy. 2-person teams, leapfrog through the mall, maintain visual contact, radio any threats. Priority is evacuating civilians. Secondary is locating shooter. Everyone clear. It was adequate planning, if unimaginative. Maya added, remember we might have multiple shooters or secondary devices. Don't fixate on the first threat you find. Clear your zones completely before moving forward. Rodriguez nodded. Good call. And let's establish code words. Tango for identified shooter, Sierra for secured area, Whiskey for wounded civilian. They entered Scenario Facility, a mock shopping mall with actual storefronts, mannequins, props, and role players. The moment they crossed the threshold, speakers erupted with screams, gunfire sounds, chaos. Smoke machines created disorienting haze. Maya's training kicked in automatically, breathing steady, tunnel vision prevented through conscious visual scanning, threat assessment prioritized. She paired with Jennifer, taking the right corridor while Marcus and Williams took left. Rodriguez and Chin secured the entrance. Tom and Jackson evacuated civilians. Contact right. Jennifer called, spotting a role player with a training rifle firing blanks. But Maya had already seen him. Identified him through the smoke based on his stance and weapon positioning. Her simunition rounds marked center mass before Jennifer finished her warning. Tango down, Maya reported over radio. Continuing right corridor sweep. They cleared 3 stores, a clothing retailer, a bookshop, a coffee stand, evacuating role-player civilians, securing wounded, mannequins marked with injury cards, maintaining communication with the rest of the squad. Maya's movements were efficient, professional, exactly what she'd done countless times in actual combat. But something was wrong. The smoke was thicker than necessary. The screams had a quality that triggered something deep in Maya's nervous system. Not conscious memory, but somatic response, her body remembering things her mind had compartmentalized. The flashbang sounds from the speakers weren't quite right, but they were close enough. Close enough to transport her to Ramadi. 2019. A hostage rescue gone catastrophic. Building collapse. Teammates screaming, smoke and dust, and... Maya... Jennifer's voice cut through. You still with me? Maya blinked, refocused. She was in Colorado, in a training facility. Safe. Not Iraq. Not 2019. Safe. I'm good, she said, though her heart was hammering. Keep moving. They found a second shooter, role player positioned in a second-floor food court, firing blanks at civilians below. This one was trickier. Elevated position, multiple innocents in the line of fire. Maya and Jennifer coordinated. Jennifer laying suppressive fire, blanks that still made noise, still created stress, while Maya flanked right, using storefronts as cover, ascending a side stairwell. The role player never saw her coming. Maya's simonician marked him before he could track her position. Second tango down, food court. Marcus's voice crackled over radio. Good shooting. Everyone report status. The team checked in. All safe. Several civilian evacuations successful. Area secured. Total time, for minutes 30 seconds. Faster than Squad 1, with better tactics and 0 civilian casualties in crossfire. Tanner's voice came over the loudspeaker. Scenario complete. Squad 2, excellent work. Reeves, that flanking maneuver on the second shooter was textbook. Everyone else, solid communication and zone clearing. Return to staging area. They exited the facility, adrenaline still pumping, and found Squad 1 waiting with expressions mixing respect and intimidation. Maya's performance had been noticeably different. Faster reactions, better spacing. Precision shooting that suggested thousands of hours of practice. Kyle Brennan, part of Squad 1, approached as Maya removed her helmet. That was impressive. The way you move through that scenario, that's not civilian training. That's muscle memory from doing this for real. Just follow the protocols. Maya deflected. Bullshit, Kyle said, but not aggressively. Look, I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday. About actions mattering more than apologies. So here's an action. I'm publicly acknowledging in front of everyone that you're operating at a completely different level than the rest of us. And instead of feeling threatened by that, I'm asking if you'd be willing to give me pointers. Teach me what you know. It was unexpectedly mature, and Maya felt her assessment of Kyle shift slightly. Maybe there was hope for him after all. Talk after today's scenarios, she said. Need to focus right now. They moved to Scenario 2, hostage situation in a mock bank. This one was psychologically trickier. Negotiation first, violence only if negotiation failed. Haven't made the call between patience and action. Squad 1 went first, and it went poorly. The negotiator, Chase Hendricks, got frustrated quickly, abandoned negotiation protocols, and ordered a breach prematurely. The result, 2 hostages killed in crossfire, and the hostage taker escaped through a back exit they'd failed to cover. Tanner's assessment was brutal, unacceptable. In real life, 2 people are dead because you prioritize aggression over strategy. Chase, your negotiation was confrontational instead of rapport building. Team, you failed to establish proper perimeter before breaching. Squad 2 had 5 minutes to strategize. Marcus looked at Maya. You want to run this one? I'm out of my depth with negotiations. It was smart leadership, recognizing your limitations and delegating to more qualified personnel. Maya considered, then nodded. I'll negotiate. Marcus, you set a perimeter and entry team in case negotiation fails. Rodriguez, you're with Marcus coordinating breach plan. Everyone else, establish outer perimeter and prevent escape routes. They entered the scenario, a realistic bank interior with teller stations, offices, and role players playing hostages and hostage taker. The hostage taker was a hired actor playing someone desperate and armed, deliberately unpredictable to create stress. Maya approached the bank entrance alone, hands visible, weapon holstered. My name is Maya. I'm here to help resolve the situation peacefully. Can we talk? The role player responded with scripted agitation. Stay back. I've got a gun and I'll shoot these people. I just want money to get out of town. Okay, Maya said calmly. I understand you're in a difficult situation. Let's talk about what you need and how we can make this end without anyone getting hurt. Can you tell me your name?" For the next several minutes, Maya ran textbook hostage negotiation, building rapport, validating emotions, creating connection, slowly de-escalating. She'd done this twice in actual operations, once in Yemen, extracting a kidnapped aid worker, once in Somalia dealing with pirates. But she'd also trained extensively with FBI hostage negotiators who taught at Dam Neck, the DevGru training facility. The role player, following a script, eventually agreed to surrender, releasing hostages in exchange for Maya's promise of safe passage. In reality, the moment he emerged, Marcus's team moved in for a safe apprehension. 0 casualties. Peaceful resolution. Total time, 12 minutes. Tanner's voice over loudspeaker. "Outstanding work, Squad 2. Reeves, that was professional-grade negotiation. FBI quality. Marcus, excellent perimeter and arrest team coordination. This is how the scenario should be executed." But Maya felt the familiar hollowness that followed successful operations, the knowledge that in training, everyone goes home. In real life, sometimes despite your best efforts, people died anyway. They took a lunch break, sandwiches and water, eating quickly because the hardest scenario was still coming. Maya found a quiet spot away from the group, needing solitude to recalibrate her nervous system. The morning scenarios had been more triggering than she'd anticipated, old memories pressing against carefully constructed mental barriers. "Mind if I sit?" Tom Hendricks appeared, holding his lunch. "You look like you need some quiet, but I also noticed you've been alone all morning and figured maybe some company wouldn't hurt." Despite herself, Maya smiled slightly. Tom was earnest to a fault, and there was something grounding about his civilian normalcy. "Sure." They ate in silence for a few minutes before Tom spoke. "You were really something in those scenarios. The way you moved, how you talked that hostage taker down. That's not stuff you learn in a 2-week course. You've done this before, haven't you?" "For real." "Can't really talk about it," Maya said. "That's okay. I don't need details. Just want you to know that watching you today gave me something I haven't had since I arrived here. Confidence that I might actually be able to do this job." He paused. "I'm training for hospital security. My hospital's had 3 active shooter drills in the past year because there have been so many incidents. I'm terrified I'll freeze when it matters, that I won't know what to do." "You won't freeze," Maya said with certainty. "How do you know?" "Because you've been pushing yourself every single day here, even when it's hard, even when you're scared. That takes courage. And courage is not being afraid. It's doing the right thing despite being afraid. You've got that." Tom's eyes were suddenly wet. "Thank you. That means a lot, especially coming from you." They finished lunch as other recruits gathered for the final scenario, the most complex one, involving multiple variables and ambiguous threats. Scenario 3. Vehicle interdiction and high-value target extraction. Squad 2 would intercept a convoy, 3 vehicles, multiple role players, identify and extract a specific person marked with a colored armband unknown to the team, handle armed security without unnecessary casualties. The complication: some of the security were legitimate, defending a VIP under threat. Others were hostile, criminal element. The squad had to make real-time determinations about who was actually dangerous. Marcus looked at Maya. "I'm officially making you team leader for this one. This is too complex for my ego to fuck up." It was growth, and Maya respected it. "All right, here's the plan." She laid out a strategy. Established roadblock with clear lane for escape, contained environment, verbal commands first, graduated force response. Chun and Rodriguez handle vehicle interception. Williams and Jackson provide overwatch. Marcus and Jennifer with Maya for close contact extraction. Tom on perimeter security. Key point, Maya emphasized. We don't know who's actually hostile until they demonstrate hostile action. Do not engage unless you have clear threat indicators. Weapon drawn, aggressive movement toward us or civilians, failure to comply with lawful commands. When in doubt, contain and assess rather than shooting. They entered the scenario facility, a mock roadway with actual vehicles and multiple role players in security gear. The convoy approached. 3 black SUVs, heavily tinted windows, moving at moderate speed. Chun and Rodriguez deployed tire deflation strips, disabling the convoy smoothly. The vehicle stopped, doors opened, role players emerged, some with hands visible and empty, others reaching for training weapons. Hands up, down on the ground. Maya commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority. What followed was controlled chaos. Some role players complied immediately, the legitimate security personnel following orders. Others reached for weapons. The hostile element. Maya's team responded with graduated force, verbal commands, simulation warning shots, targeted shots only on confirmed threats. Maya herself moved through the scenario with balletic precision, identifying the HVT, a role player with blue armband concealed under his jacket, extracting him while Jennifer and Marcus covered, navigating through controlled chaos without firing unnecessarily. A role player lunged at her with a training knife. Unexpected complication. Maya disarmed him with the same smooth efficiency she demonstrated in defensive tactics, controlling him without lethal force, transitioning him to Marcus for detention. Total time, 7 minutes. 0 civilian casualties. 0 unnecessary force. HVT extracted successfully. All hostile elements neutralized or detained. Tanner's assessment was quiet, almost reverent. That was the best execution of the scenario I've seen in 5 years of running this course. Reeves, your leadership was exceptional. Clear commands, graduated force, tactical awareness. Everyone else, you followed her lead perfectly. This is a standard. As Squad 2 exited the scenario facility, the entire camp, instructors, other squads, support staff, was watching. Word had spread about Maya's performance throughout the day. And now everyone wanted to see who this mysterious woman was who dominated every scenario with professional-grade execution. Kyle Brennan started clapping. Then Marcus joined. Then Jennifer, Tom. And within seconds, the entire camp was applauding Squad 2's performance. But really, they were applauding Maya. She stood there, helmet under her arm, uncomfortable with the attention but unable to escape it. This was the opposite of gray man tactics, the opposite of invisibility. She'd been exposed completely, her skills and background laid bare for everyone to see. Derek Tanner approached, respect evident in his expression. That was DevGru-level operational execution. I know it, you know it, and now everyone here knows it. Question is, what do you want to do about it? Maya looked at the assembled recruits. 43 people at various skill levels, all of them looking at her like she just demonstrated something remarkable and inspiring. She saw Kyle, who'd learned humility, Marcus, who'd learned to delegate, Tom, who'd found courage, Jennifer, who'd become a friend. And she realized something. Maybe her transition from military to civilian didn't have to mean abandoning everything she'd been. Maybe there was a way to keep serving, keep teaching, keep being useful, just in a different context. I want to help them, Maya said quietly. All of them. Not just get through this course, but actually become better versions of themselves. That's what good training does. Transforms people. Tanner smiled. Then let's make it official. Finish your last week as a recruit, get your certification. Then come back as an instructor. We need people like you, real operators who can teach the next generation. I'll think about it, Maya promised. That evening, after a celebratory dinner where multiple recruits asked Maya for advice, autographs, and LinkedIn connections, she found herself back at the pavilion where this had all started. The mountain night was cold and clear, stars overwhelming in their abundance. Thought I'd find you here. Jennifer Park appeared, carrying 2 beers from the camp's limited selection. Figured you might need this. Thanks. Maya accepted the beer. They sat on the pavilion edge, legs dangling over the side, looking at the mountain silhouetted against the starry sky. Hell of a day, Jennifer observed. Yeah. You know everyone's going to know who you are now, right? Or at least what you were. Navy SEAL. Probably DevGru based on your skill level. That's not something you can hide anymore. I know. How does that feel? Maya considered the question honestly. Terrifying. Liberating. Both simultaneously. That's called growth, Jennifer said with a smile. Accepting who you are while figuring out who you are. Your therapist would be proud. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking beer and watching stars. After a while, Maya spoke. The helicopter crash that ended my career, it killed 3 of my teammates. Good people, better operators than I'll ever be. They didn't get to transition, didn't get second chances, didn't get to figure out who they were after the military. Survivor's guilt, Jennifer said quietly. You feel like you don't deserve this because they didn't get it. Maybe, or maybe you honor them by living fully, by using what they taught you to help others, by not wasting the second chance they didn't get. Jennifer looked at her directly. Maya, you're one of the most capable people I've ever met. And today you showed 43 people what excellence looks like while making them feel capable themselves. That's a gift. Don't waste it because you feel guilty for surviving. Maya felt tears threatening, exhaustion and emotion, and the weight of everything she'd been carrying. I don't know how to be this person. The instructor, the mentor, the one people look up to. I only know how to be the operator in the background, invisible and effective. Then learn, Jennifer said simply, the same way you learn everything else, through practice, failure, and showing up anyway. You've got time. 10 more days of this course. Then whatever comes next. They finished their beers as the temperature dropped toward freezing. Tomorrow would bring more training, more scenarios, more opportunities for growth. But tonight, sitting under impossible stars with someone who become a friend, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope, not the naive optimism of someone who'd never been broken, but the hard-won hope of someone who'd survived breaking and discovered they could rebuild stronger, different, more authentic. The next morning, Maya Reeves woke at 0430, laced up her boots, and went for her run. But this time, she wasn't running from anything. She was running towards something, a future where her skills served a purpose, where her trauma informed rather than defined her, where she could be both the operator she'd been and the person she was becoming. In the distance, the mountains waited, patient and enduring, like everything worth building.